Once upon a time, the sex talk was simple. It was still mortifying for both parties, but it was simple. For the little ones, you talked about the anatomical differences between boys and girls. Where do babies come from? I'm so horrified. Glad. I'm so glad that you asked. You discussed how these anatomical differences allowed the mommy and the daddy to make a baby, praying that the kids didn't ask for more details. As they got older, you discussed God's design for marriage and God's purpose for sex within marriage. You gave some verses from Ephesians, gave a very, very light study from Song of Solomon about the goodness of sex, but only within marriage. Don't do it outside of marriage. And then you turned these fully prepared youngsters over to the youth pastor who taught them who knows what out of a study guide on purity. Phew, glad that's over. One question, though. How's that been working out for us? How'd that work out for you? Does it feel like we're winning the cultural war on this one? Because it doesn't to us. We are losing so badly that many people have just given up and opted for the safe sex talk because any discussion of abstinence is just laughed at. Like, oh, how cute, as if you can convince teenagers not to have sex. You're so funny. To paraphrase legendary fighter Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until they've been hit. The church, unfortunately, is no different. Between hyper-fundamentalism, the fallout of purity culture, and the at times graceless response to LGBTQ issues, the church has taken more than its share of hits. As Dr. Julie Slattery points out, the problem isn't that the spiritual battle defending biblical sexuality isn't worth having. The problem is that the church doesn't know how to fight, and the fallout isn't pretty. Pew Research Journal conducted a study on views regarding sexuality and found that 57% of Christians believe premarital sex in a committed relationship was fine, while 50% said that hookups, sleeping with someone you aren't even committed to, was no biggie. According to one study, upwards of 80% of unmarried evangelicals between the ages of 18 to 29 have had sex. We parents aren't doing much better. Many of us grew up in a don't ask, don't tell household when it came to discussing sex, and we've happily carried on the tradition with our kids. For some of us, the silence is rooted in fear. We're afraid that if we talk about sex, then our kids are going to want sex. Or perhaps you are only now, shaking off the weight of toxic sexual messages that were piled upon your teenage shoulders. The last thing you want to do is make your children feel the same guilt and shame that you did. And others just don't know what to say. Heck, we don't even understand how the biblical sexual worldview is a critical aspect in our own walk with Jesus, let alone how to explain it to our kids.